Hi there booktube, it's Eleanor here, and today is the final day of my best books of the year. It's going to be a little bit of a mishmash of various different things. I've had 3 middle grade books which I've loved this year, which has been a brilliant because it's quite a new genre for me to be reading. I only had 1 adult fantasy and 1 adult contemporary book that I have included in my favourites this year, so I'm going to talk about all of those in today's video. It will come as no surprise to you that 2 of the books that are on my list in the middle grade category are 2 in a series, and that is Nevermore and Wondersmith. You've heard me wax lyrical about these and everybody else on booktube talk about how brilliant they are. I am no different. They're definitely 2 of my favourite books of the year. They have reinvigorated my interest in middle grade books. They have given me those special tingly feelings that Harry Potter did for the first time. That's not to say it is Harry Potter or like Harry Potter in any way, just that feeling I remember having when I read Harry Potter. It follows Morrigan Crow. She's destined to die. She is been born in the wrong time and she is blamed for everything that goes wrong, and on the day she is meant to die, she is whisked away to a place called Nevermore, where she is going to take part in a competition to try and become a student at the Wonder Society, and so we follow that, and then in book 2 we continue our story, and I just can't wait. I need more and more and more of these. Jessica Townsend is a true genius in my opinion, so I definitely recommend those if you haven't read them yet. The other one that I want to talk about was one I read earlier in the year, but I still think about now, and it's called The Beast Player by Naoko Uehashi, and this is, oh, it was just so brilliant. This was just so beautifully written, and it sits in the YA category I believe, but I felt it had that, it was sort of crossed over that border. I feel like middle graders could read it and really enjoy it. Our main character can talk to these magical creatures. There is a warring sort of world with this sort of war going on. We start out with our main protagonist. Her family have always taken care of these special sort of serpent type beasts, like a cross between a serpent and a dragon, and something happens and she's torn away from her family and she is brought up somewhere else, and it's just about her journey and her journey sort of back to her roots, but past that, and her fighting for what she believes is right, and looking into how these beasts, these sort of serpent dragon-like creatures have been used and abused really for war, and you know, looking at saving them and considering them more, and I just thought it was brilliant. It was a truly wonderful book to read, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, so it's definitely deserves its spot in my top books of 2018. My adult fantasy, again, most of these on here this year won't come as a surprise. My adult fantasy was Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna Maguire. I really loved that book. I thought it was brilliant. Yeah, it was just a true joy. It was dark. It's sort of novella-ish in its length, but this Wayward Children series, which looks at children that have come back from different sort of fantasy worlds like Narnia or can't think of the word, Oz, or somewhere like that, or those sorts of places, and how they sort of assimilate back into the normal world, or do they? And in these little ones that come after the first book, we are venturing into some of these worlds ourselves and learning about them, and I love it. I just think they're brilliant. And then the adult contemporary that I've really loved is called Nowhere But Home by Liza Palmer. I think it's Liza, not Lisa. Palmer. This came as a bit of a surprise. I picked this book up and thought I'd sort of read it a little bit as a contemporary pit stop, thought it'd be a bit sort of light, and it wasn't. It had so much depth to it. We're following our main character. She's left her small town in America years before. We don't really know why, but we know there's a lot that's gone on there. Her mother was a bit of a pariah in the town. She's now in prison for killing her best friend. She is flitting around. She's a chef in various different hotels and restaurants, and she's flitting around. She can't keep a job. She doesn't seem to be able to sort of keep down a job, and she ends up having to go back home to live with her sister and her nephew, who is sort of 18, and there's lots of things in this town that have remained unresolved for a long time, relationships that haven't properly been dealt with, and she, you know, in order to make ends meet, she ends up taking on a job at the local penitentiary prison to cook the last meals for people on death row. And I never really considered how that might play havoc on someone in making them that meal, because they do get to choose what last meal they want in the book, and looking into like the choices behind that, and it was very evocative. There was a lot of food references, and the food was a big part in this book, and it really sort of made the food was almost a person in the way she writes. It was, you could taste it. It was, and I just felt so emotional, and I just thought it was a really interesting thing to think about, like making someone their last meal when you know they've done something horrendous, and part of you doesn't want to do that, part of you doesn't want to know what they've done, and part of you is intrigued by you know, why they've picked these certain things. And she sometimes has to ask questions. There is someone that requests something, and she has to go back and ask them to ask this person where their grandmother came from, because she knows that that's probably where this initial recipe or idea has come from, and there's different places, and they just slightly change the recipe depending on what part of a particular area of like America or Mexico or wherever they're from. And I just thought it was really cleverly done, and then tying in all these little threads of the life, and yeah, anyway, I loved it. I definitely recommend it. It's way more than just a general contemporary fiction story. There is so much depth to it. I definitely recommend it. Anyway, so that is it. That's my favourite books this year. Those are all the 5-star reads. Over the last 3 videos, you have seen those books that I've loved this year. There's been less than last year. I haven't achieved as many 5-star reads. Whether that is because I am becoming more discerning in what I am giving 5 stars, or whether that's just because I've been unlucky and I just haven't read those ones that have blown me away this year, I don't know. But I'm really pleased with the ones I have read and that I've talked about in the last few videos. Anyway, have you read any of these, and did you give any of these 5 stars? Let me know in the comments down below as always, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.